Hello PEI.
Hello!
And thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Great to be here. It's a busy time, lots of change, lots of growth happening.
It really is.
Yeah, looking at stories from Charlottetown and Stratford as well.
Okay.
We'll get into how Charlottetown's trying to tackle the housing crunch, with the zoning changes.
Right.
And there's a really interesting plan for, a historic downtown property.
Oh, yeah?
And then
Yeah.
over in Stratford, well, there's a proposed development that's sparking some pretty intense debate. Environmental stuff.
Gotcha. And look, right up front, we need to give a huge thank you
Absolutely.
to Mike Montague of Remax Charlottetown. Mike, he actually provided the research that, well, it forms the basis for this whole deep dive.
Yeah, it's fantastic having these local insights. Really helps bring it all together for you, the listener.
Incredibly helpful. So, Mike, seriously, thank you.
Definitely. And these stories, they aren't just, isolated things. They really tap into the core dynamics playing out across PEI right now.
Like what?
Well, the pressure for housing, obviously, the challenges, the opportunities of developing in towns and cities.
And that environmental piece you mentioned?
Exactly. That critical discussion about protecting what makes PEI special as well as we grow. So Charlottetown first.
Yeah.
And their sort of big picture approach to boosting the housing supply.
City council working to allow more density, right? Rezoning?
That's the tool, yeah. Rezoning specific areas, moving them from low density to medium density.
Okay, rezoning. For anyone maybe not deep in the planning world, that's basically changing the rules for what you can build somewhere.
Exactly. It's how cities manage land use and growth.
And medium density. We're not talking skyscrapers here, are we?
No, not at all. Deputy Mayor Alana Jankoff, she's quoted in the article, she used the term gentle infill.
Gentle infill. I like that. Sounds less disruptive.
Right. I think it paints a good picture. It's about fitting more homes into existing neighborhoods, but, respectfully.
So what does that actually look like? Townhouses, small apartments.
Yeah, exactly. Things like townhouses, maybe smaller apartment buildings, duplexes, homes with those basement suites or garden suites.
Okay.
The idea is to add more housing options without completely changing the feel of a street overnight.
And the need is, well, it's urgent, isn't it?
Critical need, absolutely. People need places to live.
So these zoning changes, how much impact do they actually have?
These amendments could potentially pave the way for around 1,100 units.
Wow.
Over the next several years, yeah, just through this medium density approach. So that's a pretty decent chunk towards tackling that vacancy issue.
1,100 units from just this strategy that is significant. Are there, actual projects already moving thanks to this?
Yes, definitely. Some examples that got the green light. One amendment cleared the way for a project on Mount Edward Road, multi-phase thing.
Okay.
That one alone could eventually bring maybe 150 units, starting with a 47-unit apartment building.
Mount Edward Road, that's already a busy area. I think Councilor Mitch Tweel raised that. Traffic concerns.
He did, yeah. He was reflecting what residents were worried about, called the potential traffic increase unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Strong word.
Yeah, he compared it to North River Road. And he also brought up the point about, who pays for the infrastructure upgrades needed to support all this. The city does.
Those are definitely valid points. Traffic, infrastructure costs. How did the city respond? The deputy mayor.
Deputy Mayor Jankoff, she acknowledged it. Traffic is increasing because, well, the population's growing.
Right.
She said the city is responsible for looking at traffic flow, doing studies, and they plan to.
But, yeah.
But, and this was a key point she made, they feel they can't just stop building housing because of traffic concerns. Because the traffic's going to increase anyway as more people move here, whether you build those specific units or not.
That really lays out the dilemma, doesn't it? Need housing for people, people bring cars, existing roads might not cope. It's a bit of a bind.
It's a very complex balancing act. City wants to encourage this denser development near transit routes.
Ah, okay. The T3 bus lines.
Exactly. The thinking is, if people live closer to transit, maybe they rely less on cars, helps mitigate the traffic impact, over time, connects housing and transit.
That makes a lot of sense. Any other examples approved under this new approach?
Yeah, council also rezoned for a 5-story, 41-unit building on Kensington Road.
Okay.
And another 9-unit townhouse development, also on Kensington, plus a 4-unit townhouse on Evelyn Street.
So it's happening in a few different spots, not just piling into one area.
Right. Shows it's more of a citywide strategy, applying that gentle infill concept in various places.
Okay, so the big picture for Charlottetown zoning. The city's proactively changing its rule. The zoning and development bylaw they were close to finalizing to make way for more housing, especially medium density, to fight the housing shortage. But trying to think about infrastructure, transit too.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. It's a strategic push for development they hope is, sustainable and fits the city's scale.
Great. Okay, let's stay downtown Charlottetown, but switch gears a bit. A very different kind of project, the old gas station.
Oh, yeah, this one's really interesting. The property at 85 Euston Street.
Euston Street, okay.
Irving Oil actually donated the site to the city. It's been closed for years, that old gas station right in the core.
A gas station right downtown. Feels kind of strange now.
Well, it was built way back the 1930s, had that distinctive turret design some old Irvings had.
Right, I think I know the look.
It stopped being a gas station around 2008. A car rental place used it for a bit, but the original building stayed. Its sort of historic look helped save it.
And Irving just gave it to the city. That's a big chunk of downtown land.
It really is. Darren Gillis from Irving Oil, he's quoted saying it's a significant piece of real estate and that they're proud to support the city's vision for downtown with the donation.
So what is the vision? It's been sitting there for a while.
They're calling the project the Euston Street Irving Re-Energization Concept. Bit of a mouthful.
Re-energization, okay.
Mayor Philip Brown laid out the plan. Turn it into a community hub, a collaborative space, big focus on net zero energy.
Net zero community hub. What does that actually mean? What would be in it?
According to the mayor, possibilities include EV chargers, e-bike chargers.
Ties into the new e-bike rentals.
Exactly. Maybe an interpretive center. And a community center space. Definitely leaning into green transport and community use.
EV and e-bike charging makes total sense downtown. An interpretive center, though.
Yeah.
Any idea what it might interpret? History of gas stations.
Maybe. The sources didn't specify the theme, but, given the site's past as a transportation spot and the future focus, maybe something about how transportation's evolved on the island. Or urban change, sustainability. Could be anything, really.
Yeah, that fits. Taking old infrastructure, making it new, community-focused, forward-looking. Cool concept. Has this been talked about for long?
Yeah, since at least 2021, apparently. The city's already put aside $1 million from its capital budget.
Okay.
And they're expecting more funding from Innovation PEI, ACOA. So the money seems to be lining up.
Did Irving attach any strings to the donation? Conditions?
Yeah, a few logical ones, mostly about not competing with Irving's business.
Right. No selling gas or running a convenience store.
Exactly. Those obvious ones.
Anything else? Affecting timing or plans?
Yes, a pretty strict timeline. Work has to start within 18 months of the deal.
Okay.
And be mostly done within 36 months. 3 years.
Wow.
And if it's not substantially finished in 48 months, 4 years, Irving can buy it back for $1.
Whoa, okay. So real pressure on the city to get moving. Can't just let the concept sit there.
Definitely puts a fire under them. But Mayor Brown sounded optimistic in the article, said, still T's to cross and I's to dot, but the announcement means they can really push ahead.
When might construction start?
He was hoping maybe within 3 to 6 weeks. Also mentioned hoping to work out details with Irving on maybe sharing maintenance costs later, but that wasn't set yet.
Okay, so this Euston Street project.
Yeah.
Clear example of urban renewal. Taking an old, underused site, giving it a modern, green community purpose, all thanks to a big corporate donation, but with a tight deadline attached.
That nails it. Preserving some history, but giving it a totally new life that fits where the city's heading.
All right, let's shift gears now, head over the bridge to Stratford.
Right.
Where a proposed development is really stirring things up. Growth versus environment.
A proposal by R&D builders. It's in the Forest Trails subdivision.
Okay.
They applied to rezone land at the end of Hollis Avenue, change it from medium density to high density.
We just talked medium density in Charlottetown, townhouses, small apartments. So what's high density mean here? What do they want to build?
Well, on the rezoned piece, 32 stacked townhouses.
Stacked townhouses.
And then across the street on another lot they own, 2 apartment buildings, total of 78 units there.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite a bit more density than typical single-family homes or even medium density.
And the opposition, where's that coming from?
Primarily from the residents already living nearby. The sources show their concerns really boil down to 2 main things.
Okay, what's the first?
Just the sheer density increase.
What's the second, maybe bigger issue?
The really big sticking point, reading between the lines and what residents said, is that a good chunk of this proposed site includes what they strongly believe is protected wetlands.
Uh-oh. Wetlands.
Yeah.
That always flags environmental concerns.
It does. And the residents quoted are very, very clear about this. There's an existing signed development plan for Stratford that marked this whole area as protected.
A signed plan.
Yeah, and that any disturbance should be off the table.
So what's the town of Stratford done? Public hearing?
They held one back in October. Residents showed up, voiced strong objections.
Okay.
But despite that pushback, the town's planning committee actually supported the rezoning request.
They supported it.
Yeah, and the town council had already given the plan first reading approval.
So it was moving through the official process despite the concerns. What about the wetland itself? Did anyone actually assess it? The town?
Yeah.
The province?
Well, according to the sources, the developer, R&D Builders, they hired a private firm, Fundy Engineering,
Okay.
to do a wetland assessment. That was last November.
Last November. Middle of winter. Did the residents mention that?
Oh, yeah. They strongly questioned doing it then.
Things are frozen or dormant.
Exactly.
You can see why that would be a red flag for neighbors. Questioning the data behind the decision, did the provincial environment department weigh in?
They did send a letter back in January to Fundy Engineering and the developer.
Okay, what did it say?
A land management manager said, based on their info then, it looked like maybe 2 of the 4 lots could potentially be developed without hitting the wetland.
Okay, so some parts might be okay. What about the other lots, the ones residents are worried about?
The letter suggested there might be more wetland on another lot that could be impacted, and if so, it might need compensation.
Compensation.
Yeah, but the department said they couldn't know for sure until spring. They said provincial staff were willing to work with the developer on developing the lots as long as wetland impact is minimized. But any compensation for that potentially impacted lot, that had to be figured out in the spring after a proper look.
Compensation for impacting a wetland. Paying money to damage it. Is that allowed under PEI policy?
That's a really key point and kind of confusing. The sources say PEI's wetland policy does allow developers to pay into a fund if a wetland is developed.
No.
But, and this is the critical part, only if the government decides the wetland loss cannot be prevented.
Ah, so it's supposed to be a last resort, not just pay a fee and build.
That's certainly how environmental groups usually frame it, but the Stratford residents, they're clearly against it anyway.
Feels like money replacing protection.
That seems to be their view, yeah.
Okay, so given their worries about the winter assessment, the potential destruction, what are the residents asking the Stratford Council to do now?
Their specific request is postpone the vote, delay the rezoning decision.
Until when?
Until the province can do a new independent environmental impact assessment, an EIA, at the site.
Done at the right time of year, presumably.
Exactly. Spring or summer when you can actually see the wetland properly, get a clear picture before any zoning change locks things in.
Seems pretty reasonable given the questions raised. How did the town respond to that specific request for a delay and a new assessment?
Well, the Provincial Environment Department put out a statement. They said they got the request for an EIA, but handling planning concerns like this, that's the town of Stratford's job.
So, passing the buck a bit.
Sort of sounds like it. They did add that provincial staff have been working with the developer to minimize impact and will ensure impacts are minimized using existing rules.
Okay, so the province says, towns call on planning, but will enforce environment rules. What about the town council itself?
Councillor Jeff McDonald, he chairs the planning committee. He put out a statement too, said the town's following all the rules, working with the province.
Okay.
But, crucially, he said the resolution council is voting on is only for rezoning. An environmental assessment, if it's required, wouldn't happen now at the rezoning stage. It would happen later, during the development approval process.
Ah, okay. So the town's saying rezoning first, environment check later. But for the residents?
It's effectively saying okay to destroying the wetland, no matter what checks might come later.
That's the core conflict right there.
Yeah.
Process versus perceived outcome.
Exactly. Residents see the rezoning vote as the point of no return for the wetland. The town sees it as a planning step, with environmental rules applied down the road.
And it's worth noting, right, the residents quoted, they don't sound totally anti-development.
Shows how local details really matter in whether people accept development.
We have covered a fair bit of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
From Charlottetown's big picture zoning changes and that cool downtown repurposing project to this very specific, very heated debate in Stratford about growth, wetlands, and process.
Yeah, and taken together, these stories really highlight something. The island is growing, communities are grappling with needing more homes, revitalized spaces.
As PEI keeps growing, keeps changing, these stories show the crucial decisions about how and where that growth happens are being made constantly, often town by town, council by council.
Right.
So how do we, residents, developers, local governments, how do we collectively navigate all this? How do we make sure we balance that real need for homes and updated infrastructure with, protecting the unique character, the natural environment that makes PEI, well, PEI? Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive, for engaging with this stuff. We hope digging into these articles together gave you some useful insights into what's actually happening on the ground with development and real estate here.
Yeah, we really appreciate you spending your time with us.
And again, one more massive thank you to Mike Montague of RE/MAX Charlottetown for providing the research that really made this deep dive possible. Hearing about all this activity, zoning, specific projects, conflicts, revitalization, it might get you thinking about the real estate market yourself.
Could do, yeah.
Maybe in a new way. And if these conversations about growth and development here on PEI do get you thinking about your own needs, buying, selling, whatever, well, Mike Montague at RE/MAX Charlottetown, he clearly has a deep understanding of the very dynamics we've just been talking about.
For sure. Having someone plugged into these specific local issues, that's incredibly valuable when you're navigating the market.
So thanks again, Mike, for the research. And thank you, our listener, for being here. If you found this deep dive helpful, interesting, valuable, please take a second to like, subscribe, maybe share it.
Yeah, your support really helps us keep doing these. Keep exploring the topics that matter to you. Your engagement keeps the conversation going.
Thanks for listening.